The canyon wind howled between the twin suns as dust curled around the broken stones of the battlefield. Smoke drifted from scattered wreckage. Burnt steel, alien blood. Silence followed the screams that had filled the air only minutes before. From a jagged ridge above, the alien warrior leapt down like a falling blade. Her armor shimmered like forged obsidian under the red light. Her expression was unreadable, cold as the iron in her grip. She stepped past bodies, hers and his, and closed the distance. The man sat on a rock in the sand, left leg twisted unnaturally. His torn vest flapped in the wind. A streak of dried blood marked his shoulder, but his face was calm. He looked up at her with eyes that had seen too much, but still smiled. "You should have screamed by now," the alien warrior said. Her voice was like steel dragged across stone. "I don't scream," the man replied. His name was Grayson. His leg was broken, and yet he had no fear in his voice. She drew her sword, not just any blade. It was an heirloom of her tribe, forged in the gravity furnaces of Vexa Prime, tempered in black starfire. It had cut through armor, bone, and walls alike. She raised it and struck downward with full force. The blade met his wounded leg. It should have sliced through flesh and shattered bone, but instead, the metal rang like it struck something ancient. Sparks exploded, a flash of blue, then silence. Grayson's smile widened. Her blade trembled in her hand. A crack spread down the length of the sword. She staggered back as the sacred weapon shattered into 1,000 glassy shards. The wind carried the pieces away. Her breath caught. Her eyes locked onto the human who hadn't even flinched. "What are you?" she whispered. Grayson slowly rose, favoring his good leg. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he wiped dust from his chest and looked toward the horizon. "You all made the same mistake," he finally said. "You thought pain made us weak. But pain was our beginning." Her fingers tightened. She activated her gauntlet's plasma claw. The whir of charging energy echoed in the canyon. But she hesitated. Her instincts, trained over a lifetime of battle, screamed that something was wrong. Something deeply wrong with this human. He had no weapon, no armor, and yet the world bent around him like he was no longer made of flesh. "You don't understand what you've awakened," he said, "and it's too late to unmake it." Far above them, on a hovering ridge, a scout drone recorded everything. Its lens blinked as it transmitted data back to the command mothership. Commander Vorax watched from the command deck. His long claws tapped the armrest of his chair as the transmission ended. He did not blink. His advisors whispered among themselves, but he raised a single talon to silence them. "Send the next wave," he said, "and inform the others. Do not engage the human directly." Back on the ground, the alien warrior circled Grayson slowly. She was young for her rank, fast, deadly, honored, but her mind raced with questions. "How did you do that?" she asked. "What kind of shield tech is hidden in your body?" He chuckled softly and touched his leg. There was no shield, no implants, only scar tissue and something buried deep that no machine could scan. "Not shield tech," he said, "just a very old promise." She lunged again, this time faster. A spinning strike aimed for his ribs. He ducked and rolled, despite the broken leg. She landed in a crouch, eyes wide. His movement was impossible, illogical. Human bodies didn't move like that under damage. But his did. Grayson stepped back from the strike and shifted his weight to the uninjured leg. His movement was slower now, but still sharp. His hand stayed open. His breath remained calm. The alien warrior's claws sparked as she activated a secondary mode. Each finger lit with crackling red energy. She hadn't expected him to survive the first strike, but now she was beginning to realize this wasn't a normal human. She moved again, this time aiming low. Her claw swept the sand and kicked up dust in a wide arc. Grayson's boot slid against the rock, and he caught himself with one hand as her attack whistled past. He didn't retaliate. He didn't raise a fist or grab a weapon. He just stood again. The warrior's mind screamed that this wasn't how humans were supposed to act. They bled. They screamed. They died quickly. But this one didn't. "Why are you smiling?" she snapped. What game is this? Her voice had force, but her tone cracked just slightly. Grayson shrugged. I'm not playing, he replied. This is just the part where you think you've seen everything, but you haven't. The warrior had seen thousands of battles. Her species had conquered 12 systems. They crushed rebellion with fire and blade. No soldier had ever withstood a blade of Vexa without screaming, but this man had done it, and now he was speaking in riddles. From behind a ridge, 2 more aliens arrived. They wore heavy exo armor and carried ion spears. They saw her circling the human and paused, unsure whether to strike or stand back. She raised a hand. He's mine, she said. I struck first. I'll finish it. The others waited, watching carefully. They had seen warriors fall for pride before. Still, they obeyed the code of challenge. No one interrupted a duel once begun. Grayson stepped to the side and looked up at the sky. A cloud of smoke drifted overhead from the earlier skirmish. His eyes flicked toward a downed shuttle half buried in red sand. He was looking for something. The warrior noticed and leapt to cut off his path. Her claws blazed as she landed between him and the wreckage. You won't reach it, she said. No beacon, no backup, no mercy. Grayson looked past her. I don't need to reach it, he said. I just needed time. A low hum echoed in the rocks. The others turned their heads. A vibration shook the sand under their feet. The warrior's eyes narrowed. What did you do? She asked. The wreckage shifted. From beneath it, something began to rise. A hidden core unfolded. Lights flickered on. It wasn't a distress beacon. It was a signal. Ancient and coded in a language no alien there recognized. Grayson straightened his back and folded his arms. Your people shouldn't have come here, he said. This ground remembers. And so do we. The alien warrior hesitated. We scanned for traps. We found no defenses, only old metal and ruins. That's the problem, Grayson said. You mistook silence for weakness. The ground split beside the wreck. Mechanical limbs unfolded from the sand. A sphere with glowing blue circuits hovered upward. Its voice cracked through the dust with one word. Acknowledged. The warrior stepped back instinctively. Her claws dropped. Her pulse quickened. Her instincts whispered that something ancient had just awakened. Grayson turned toward her, eyes glowing faintly blue. His voice dropped lower. We buried weapons. We buried warnings. You were never supposed to find this planet again. The second wave of soldiers stepped closer now. They felt the change. Even their armor sensors were flashing unreadable signals. The vibration in the air wasn't from a machine. It felt like the planet itself was waking up, and the man in front of them was no longer just a man. The hovering sphere pulsed with light, scanning the canyon with slow rotations. Its glow reflected off the surrounding cliffs. Symbols crawled across its surface, none of them matching any known language from the alien archives. The alien warrior stepped back again, unsure of what she was facing. She had trained against machines and monsters, but this thing felt different. It didn't radiate heat or cold. It radiated memory. Grayson stood perfectly still. His hands were by his side. He didn't speak or smile now. He simply watched the reactions forming on the warriors' faces. The alien reinforcements hesitated. One tapped their communicator, but it gave static. Another aimed his ion spear, but the weapon buzzed and then powered down. Something was blocking their systems. The sphere spoke again, this time louder. Warden identified. Protocols reinforced. Directive reinstated. The lead warrior turned toward Grayson. Warden? What does that mean? What are you? Her claws lit again, but her stance had changed. Less aggression. More caution. I'm what was left behind to make sure the warnings were remembered, Grayson said, and to make sure no one opened the vault. Vault was a word that caught their attention. It carried weight. It suggested danger. The warrior glanced at the others. They were waiting for her lead, but none stepped forward. Your kind erased itself long ago, she said. You had war, fire, extinction. We saw your ruins. You were forgotten. That's the lie you believed, Grayson replied. Some of us chose silence, not surrender. The wind picked up, carrying more sand to the canyon. The light from the sphere grew brighter, forming a dome of translucent blue light. Beneath it, the ground opened slowly, revealing metal beneath the dirt. The warrior's eyes narrowed. "Is that your weapon?" she asked. Grayson didn't answer. He stepped toward it. The blue dome recognized him. The walls of light parted silently. He walked inside. The alien soldiers lifted their weapons again. Their leader raised a hand to stop them. Her gaze was locked on the unfolding structure. It looked old, but every piece of it moved with precision. Inside, Grayson approached the pedestal. Atop it rested a black slab. His fingers touched the surface, and lines of energy shot outward. The pedestal responded to him. The entire canyon trembled as a deeper voice echoed through the rock. Seal breaker confirmed. Cycle begins. The warrior had never heard that voice before. It didn't come from the sphere. It came from the earth beneath them. Her instinct screamed for her to run. But she didn't. She stepped closer instead. "What is that thing beneath the sand?" she asked. "A warning," Grayson said. "Not just for your species. For all who come. A message sealed in stone and steel." One of the alien soldiers panicked. He launched his spear. It flew straight at the sphere, but stopped midair, frozen in place. The weapon melted into liquid and dripped to the ground. The others took a step back. Their courage had limits. Whatever power they were facing, it wasn't in their training manuals. Grayson turned around slowly. His eyes glowed more brightly now. His skin seemed more rigid, layered with something like armor, but natural. His voice was deeper, more resonant. "You didn't just find a human," he said. "You woke the archive that remembers what humans once were." The sphere hovered higher, casting light across the ridge. Symbols projected onto the cliff face, showing images, cities falling, creatures unknown, a fleet of stars burning in orbit. It was history they'd never been told. The warrior watched it all, breath shallow. These weren't threats. They were records, proof of a war older than her empire, and humanity had survived it. She realized now that her blade never stood a chance. The holographic images on the cliff flickered like firelight in a storm. Ancient battles, massive machines, and humans with glowing eyes filled the rock face. None of the aliens watching could turn away. The alien warrior's claws slowly dimmed. Her hands were no longer steady. She had faced monsters and machines, but not memories made real. Her breath caught as one of the images showed a man who looked like Grayson leading a charge into darkness. "That can't be you," she whispered. "That must be your ancestor or some war simulation." Grayson stood outside the dome now. His posture was calm but powerful. The glow in his eyes was no longer faint. His voice was louder without shouting. It was the sound of history rising. "I've lived long enough to become a story," he said. "But I was never meant to be worshipped, only remembered when needed." The sphere hovered closer to the warrior. It scanned her but did not attack. Instead, it projected her face into the air beside the human archive. She watched herself beside Grayson's image, and she felt small. "Why now?" she asked. "Why awaken this when you stayed silent for so long?" Grayson looked at the sky. "Because your kind started digging, and you didn't stop. You reached too deep. You broke the silence." More machines rose from the sand behind him. Not weapons. Statues. Monuments. They were old, worn by time, but clearly built by humans. Each one stood like a guardian. The alien soldiers dropped to one knee instinctively, not in surrender, but out of fear. Their armor sensors were overloaded. Their HUDs displayed errors. Their hearts pounded with emotion they had no word for. "Back away," their leader ordered. But none of them moved, not even her. Grayson stepped beside one of the statues. It resembled a human woman, holding a broken world in her hand. Beneath it, the ground pulsed like a heartbeat. The machines weren't just waking up. The planet itself was shifting. "We didn't conquer worlds," Grayson said. "We sealed ourselves away from them. There's a difference." The warrior shook her head. "But why? Why hide all this? Why not fight back when the galaxy's claimed Earth is lost?" Because we weren't ready, he answered. But now that you've broken the seal, we no longer have the luxury of waiting. The ground split wider, not violently, but with purpose, like something beneath had finally heard the call. Light burst through the cracks. Not fire, energy, controlled, ancient, alive. The sphere returned to the center of the dome. Protocol Prime engaged. Countdown initialized. 72 hours to full awakening. The alien commander contacted his fleet, but received only static. Their comms were jammed. Their long-range systems were offline. The planet had become a prison without walls. Grayson looked at the warrior again. You want to claim Earth as your trophy. Now you must choose. Stay and learn the truth, or run and watch from the stars. She clenched her fists but didn't raise her claws. Her voice dropped. And if we try to destroy it? You can't, he replied. And if you try, it would destroy itself and everything on it before it lets you win. The sky above them began to shift. Clouds spun in circles. The wind turned cold. Something in the atmosphere had changed. The planet was no longer quiet. Grayson looked at the stars as if sensing a signal beyond time. His voice lowered. You brought war to a place built for peace. And now peace must decide how to respond. The warrior stared at him. For the first time in her life, she didn't know whether to fight or kneel. The warrior's pulse beat hard in her ears. She scanned Grayson again, hoping to find wires or implants or anything that explained his unnatural strength. But the scan still showed nothing artificial. He wasn't enhanced by machines. He was changed by something older, something hidden deep in Earth's past that her kind had never recorded. The statues behind him began to hum. A soft sound, like a song from beneath the ground. Their eyes lit up, one by one, glowing with the same blue energy as the hovering sphere. One of the alien soldiers broke ranks. He threw down his weapon and turned to flee across the ridge. But the sand beneath him shifted, rising into a wall of light. He froze in place, trapped by an invisible force. Grayson didn't flinch. He didn't speak to the trapped soldier. His eyes remained on the warrior, as if only she mattered now. You were trained to conquer, he said, but you were never trained to listen. That's why this place terrifies you. She stepped forward, claws still dimmed. Her voice was lower now. I was told your kind burned itself out. I was told nothing remained. You were told what made you comfortable, Grayson replied. Your empire survives on stories that make you feel powerful, not on truths that humble you. Behind them, the dome continued expanding, not physically, but through influence. It reached through air and stone, pulling more memory from the planet's surface. The world itself had become a living archive. The warrior could feel it in her bones, the way the air pressed against her skin, the way her heartbeat no longer matched her rhythm. This place had begun to judge them. I didn't come to judge, Grayson said, sensing her thoughts. That choice belongs to the archive, not me. The hovering sphere pulsed again. Final key identified. Legacy core warming. Synchronization in progress. Her communicator sparked again. Voices try to break through static. Commander, do we engage? We see unknown movement around the crater edge. Orders. She didn't respond. Her eyes remained on Grayson. The other soldiers looked at her, but none dared speak louder. The silence carried more power than any command. The energy from the statues began to form patterns in the sky. Glowing trails shaped like constellations, but older. Maps of a time no alien library had ever shown. Symbols that no translator could decode. Grayson turned slightly, as if listening to those symbols speak. That map doesn't point to stars, he said. It points to choices. Ones we buried. Ones we hoped would never be needed again. The warrior raised her hand slowly. Not to strike, but to feel the heat coming from the ground. It wasn't painful. It was steady, like a pulse from the world's heart. This world sleeps, she said, but now it dreams again, doesn't it? Yes, he answered, and in its dreams, it remembers everything, every broken treaty, every fallen city, every scream from the past. One of the younger soldiers stepped forward. His voice cracked. What happens when it finishes waking? Grayson looked at him. There was no malice in his face, only a deep sorrow. Then you'll see why we chose silence, and why we were never truly gone. The sky darkened overhead, though no clouds had gathered. It was as if light itself was bending away. The archive was almost fully alive. The warrior took one last step forward. Then show me, she said. If I'm meant to know the truth, don't speak it. Let me feel it. Grayson nodded without a word. The moment she stepped inside the glowing circle, the statues turned to face her. The moment the warrior crossed the glowing boundary, the air shifted. It was not heat or cold that met her skin, but memory. She felt a wave rush over her, not with sound, but with presence. She saw flashes behind her eyes. Cities covered in green, skies filled with ships that moved like birds, and humans walking among machines like they were friends. Then came the fire. Then came the silence. The statues surrounding her moved slightly, not walking, not attacking, just enough to show they were not dead things. They were watching, judging, waiting. Grayson stood at the edge of the light. His eyes followed her every step. He didn't command the archive. He was part of it. The warrior fell to one knee. Her claws dug into the sand. The visions grew stronger. A million voices echoed across time, speaking in a language she didn't know, but still understood. This was not an attack. This was knowledge. She saw the moment Earth fell, not to war, but to exhaustion. Humanity had chosen silence not because they were beaten, but because they saw what would come if they kept fighting. Her breath grew heavy. Tears slid down her cheeks. She hadn't cried since her first trial as a soldier, but now she couldn't stop. Grayson stepped closer, but didn't cross the line. You feel it now, he said, the weight of what we carried, the choice we made. The warrior looked up at him. You sealed away everything, even your pain. Why? To protect you from what we became, he said, and to protect ourselves from becoming it again. Outside the dome, the alien soldiers were frozen. Their suits vibrated with unreadable signals. Some dropped their weapons. Others fell to their knees. They couldn't hear what she heard, but they felt the echo. The sphere hovered high above them all. Archive integration at 70%. Emotional memory layer unlocked. The ground under the warrior shimmered. Images surfaced like reflections on water. She saw herself as a child. She saw her own species conquering planets. She saw the lies they built their pride on. Her people weren't the first conquerors. They were only the latest in a cycle of forgetting. And now, that cycle had met its end. Grayson knelt across from her. Your blade shattered because it met something unbreakable. Not my skin, but the choice inside me. The one every human buried here made. She looked at her hands. And now that choice is mine too, isn't it? Yes, he said. You stepped into the truth. Now you decide whether it destroys you or changes you. The warrior slowly stood. Her claws retracted. She looked up at the statues, then back at the human who never flinched. From outside the dome, her commander's voice broke through. Soldier, report. What do you see in there? She pressed a finger to her ear. I see the truth, she said, and we are not ready for it. The wind calmed. The hum of the statues slowed. The visions faded but did not vanish. They settled in her bones like quiet fire. Grayson offered her a hand, not in threat, not in challenge, in understanding. She took it without hesitation. The dome lowered around them. The light dimmed, but something had changed in the air. The archive had shared its memory with another, and that memory could no longer be buried. The air outside the dome remained still as the warrior and Grayson stepped beyond its edge. The alien soldiers watched in silence. No one raised a weapon. No one spoke. Her expression was different now. Not broken, not defeated, just quiet. She looked at her squad mates, but said nothing to them. Grayson walked beside her, without limping. His wounded leg had not healed, but it no longer seemed to slow him. He moved with purpose, as if the pain was now part of his rhythm. The archive behind him dimmed slowly. The statues returned to stillness. The energy sphere hovered lower and remained silent. but the feeling it left behind remained strong. The commander broke the silence. "What happened in there?" His voice was sharp, but his stance showed uncertainty. He wanted answers, but not truth. The warrior turned to him. "This planet is not what we thought. The human is not what we thought. We were wrong." He narrowed his eyes. "Wrong how?" "He's still flesh. He still bleeds. What can one man do?" She shook her head. "He is not alone. This place is alive. It remembers. It judges. And we've triggered something we cannot control." Grayson looked up at the sky. The wind had shifted again. It wasn't violent, but it carried something cold, something watching, something vast. He turned to the commander. "You wanted to conquer a ghost, but this ghost had teeth, and memory, and purpose." The soldiers looked around. Their scanners were still disrupted. No signals came in from the fleet. Something had cut them off completely. The commander stepped forward. "Deactivate whatever is blocking our systems. You've made your point. We'll leave this rock." Grayson didn't move. "It's not me blocking your signal. It's the archive, and it doesn't answer to threats." The warrior stepped between them. "We should listen. If we force our way out, we may not survive. If we learn, we might leave with something greater." The commander laughed bitterly. "Learn from the ruins of a species that destroyed itself." Grayson's eyes flashed. "We can destroy ourselves. We step back to stop others from becoming us. But now you've arrived. You've ignored the signs. You've broken the seal." The commander raised his plasma sidearm. "I've heard enough." Before he could pull the trigger, the ground beneath him shifted. A single crack formed under his boots. A soft tone echoed from deep below. The weapon fell from his hand. His body locked in place. Energy wrapped around his limbs. Not to kill, to pause. The sphere spoke again. Aggression registered. External command locked. Leadership override suspended. The soldiers watched in disbelief as their leader stood frozen. His body held still by a force they couldn't see. The warrior stepped forward and picked up the fallen weapon. She looked at Grayson. "Will it kill him?" "No," Grayson said. "It will wait until he's ready to listen, just like it waited for us." The archive pulsed once. A signal spread across the sand. The statues turned to face the ridge where the fleet had landed. Ships powered down one by one. Lights blinked out. All engines stopped. The fleet had not been destroyed. It had been silenced. Grayson looked at the warrior. "You carry the truth now. What you do next will decide how this ends." She nodded. "Then I will speak, and they will hear me, even if it takes 100 battles." Grayson smiled slightly. That's what humans always respected. Not power, but the courage to carry truth forward. The warrior stood before her silent fleet. Her voice was steady. Her eyes burned not with fire, but with something deeper, understanding. Behind her, the archive remained still. It had shown its truth. Now it waited to see what others would do with it. Grayson remained near the statues. He watched her with the calm of someone who had already seen this moment in 100 lifetimes. She raised her voice. "This mission is over, not in defeat, but in revelation. Earth is not a tomb. It is a warning." The soldiers stood still. Their weapons were deactivated. Their armor now felt like a cage instead of protection. "We came here seeking conquest," she continued. "We leave knowing we nearly awakened extinction." The commander, still frozen by the archive's will, could only watch. His authority had been reduced to silence. Grayson stepped forward. "Let him go. Let him witness the truth fully. That is how learning begins." The sphere responded. Aggression flag dismissed. Mental state stable. Control returned. The commander dropped to one knee as movement returned to his limbs. He breathed heavily, like someone pulled from deep water. He looked at the warrior, then at Grayson. The arrogance was gone from his eyes. It had been replaced by something more useful. Fear wrapped in awareness. "You should have destroyed us," the commander said. "No," Grayson replied. "We needed you to see, not to suffer. What comes next is yours to shape." The warrior walked to him. She helped him stand. Her hand was firm, not hostile. She had changed, and now he would have to catch up. Together, they turned to fleet, power the ships, but no weapons, no scans, no systems that speak in threats, only memory. The order was carried out without question. Engines roared softly, and ships lifted from the ground without fire. The sky opened to them, but it no longer felt like escape. It felt like retreat. Grayson watched them rise. Will they forget again, he asked. They'll try, the warrior said, but I won't let them. She reached into her belt and removed her rank emblem. She placed it gently on the sand before the archive. Let this mark the day we stopped pretending we knew everything. The sphere responded. Emblem received. Statement recorded. Legacy updated. The ground settled. The statues closed their eyes. The energy lines across the cliffs faded into stone. The heartbeat of the archive slowed, returning to sleep. Grayson looked at the warrior. You could have killed me that day, but you didn't. Why? She smiled gently. Because the scream I wanted wasn't pain. It was truth, and you gave it. He nodded. Then maybe the future has a chance. The sky was clear now. The sun hung low, casting golden light across the broken sand. It no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like something sacred. The warrior stepped aboard the last ship. Her soldiers waited. She gave no speech, only a single command. We go home, but we return as witnesses, not invaders. The doors closed behind her. Grayson stood alone once more. But this time, he was not forgotten. Beneath his feet, the earth whispered its approval. And in the silence that followed, the stars seemed just a little closer.